Hello there. This is a really exciting one. This is the Bring Him Before Me deck. This is, I think, a lot of people's favorite deck to play. So we have a version of this. This is the Premiere to Reflections 2 format. So
Death Star 2.
Oh, sorry, Death Star 2. So no Reflections 2 because it's going to change a little bit. But let's check out what we got. Starting package, Andy. What hit me with it?
Sure. So this is the deck that I played in the Premiere to Death Star 2 Retro League. I've played probably about 150 games with this, so I've tinkered with a couple of the cards here and there based on what I've played with. So this is a pretty optimized version of this deck. I'm sitting currently at about a 75% win rate, so it's got about 120 or so wins. So this is a very good deck.
Yeah, that's great, man. I'm like below 50. So
you're going to start with this objective. It's from Death Star 2 called Bring Him Before Me. Deploy Throne Room, which is the Death Star 2 Throne Room, as well as you deploy Insignificant Rebellion and Your Destiny. And I'll go over what those cards do in a second. For remainder of game, Scanning Crew cannot get played. Opponents' cards that place a character out of play may not target Luke. You may deploy the Emperor. He deploys -2 from your reserve deck and reshuffle. Opponent may deploy Luke from reserve deck at -2 or from their lost pile at full price. If Luke is present with Vader and Vader is not escorting a captive, Luke is captured and seized by Vader. Vader may not transfer Luke. Flip this card if Luke is captured. On the back side, we get this beautiful picture of Luke swinging his lightsaber. While this side up, you lose 1 force at the end of each of your turns. And then once during each of your turns, when Vader, Luke, even as a non-frozen captive, and the Emperor are all present at the throne room, you can initiate a Luke-Vader duel. Each player draws 2 destinies. Add your ability, and the highest total wins. If Vader wins, opponent loses 3 force. If Luke wins, shuffle reserve deck and draw destiny. If destiny is greater than 12, Luke crosses to the dark side, totally depleting opponent's life force. Flip if Luke is neither present with Vader nor a captive. So, all of that to say, this deck does not duel. Dueling is actually kind of difficult with this. I don't recommend it. You can do it. There are ways to do it, but basically, you're really just playing this for the front side of the objective. But anyway, you start with the Death Star 2 Throne Room, which does say once per game, you can take Emperor's Power into hand from reserve deck. Now, my version of Bring Him Before Me does not play Emperor's Power because I would rather have the Emperor out controlling a site rather than sitting at the Death Star Throne Room. But Emperor's Power is an effect that you can play on the Death Star Throne Room. As long as the Emperor is there, opponent cannot deploy or move there, I think. And then you can lose a force to add a battle destiny at any battle. Or you can lose the effect to add a battle destiny. So you basically get 2 destiny at every single battle, as long as you're willing to lose a force. Which is definitely a very good effect to have, but it ties your Emperor up here at the throne room, which I don't really want. And then the other 2 effects that you have to start are Insignificant Rebellion, which is use 2 force to deploy on table. Because your objective is telling you to deploy it, you don't have to use 2 force, you just put it onto the table. Each time you win a battle, opponent loses 1 force, cannot be reduced, and stacks the lost card there face down. When attempting to cross Luke over, except with Epic Duel, you add 3 to total destiny for each card stacked there. So on the back of your objective, if you were dueling, you add your ability, and then your destiny draw needs to be above 12. So, like, Vader has ability of 6, which means you need to draw a 7 to cross Luke. You add your destiny, and each player draws 2 destiny, and you add your ability. If you have a lower destiny, then you can try to cross Luke and you just draw one destiny. If that one destiny is greater than 12 or a 13, basically, you then cross Luke. But there's no card. I mean, the highest destiny you can draw is a 7, right? So you have to basically win at least 2 battles onto Insignificant Rebellion to be able to draw a 7 to convert Luke. Really, you need to win about 3 battles, which, this deck is battling all the time. So it's not hard, but it's mostly just incidental force loss. And then the card that really makes this deck tick, which I will say in the 150 or so games that I've played, I've maybe had somebody lose like 12 force total to your destiny. Everybody just always gives you Luke. But this deploys on Bring Him Before Me, which is your objective. While Vader is present at a battleground site at the start of your opponent's turn, opponent loses 3 force unless Luke is captured, out of play, or present at a battleground site. Also, Luke is immune to responsibility of command. So what you want to be doing is you put Vader at a battleground site. If they don't put Luke at a battleground site so that Vader can go battle him or capture him, they're going to lose 3 force a turn. Which for things like Hidden Base or Mind What You've Learned that are trying to do like training destiny and stuff, they'll play like 1 copy of like, the original Premier Luke who deploys for 3 because they can deploy him for 1 out of their reserve deck from Bring Him Before Me. He deploys -2 and just give you Luke so that they don't have to lose 3 force a turn. It's very rare that they lose 3 force a turn, but the threat of having to lose 3 force a turn is really what makes this deck go, because you essentially take Luke out of the picture, right? Otherwise, you start Prepared Defenses, which deploys 3 effects, and you get Imperial Rest Order, mostly to be able to deploy docking bays. You'll get Mobilization Points. Your force generations +1 at each docking bay you occupy, or +2 if you control, and then there's a bunch of different systems that you can pull out of your deck. And then the third effect is really up to you. Probably, I'd say 99% of the time I start Oppressive Enforcement, mostly because it lets you play your grabbers for free, which is there will be hell to pay. And I play 3 copies of this because there's just a lot of annoying light side used interrupts that you want to grab. It could be worse, out of commission, the signal, anything that they're going to be tracking. Fall of the Legend, throw me another charge, etc., etc. So basically the first turn goes the same pretty much every single game. Before you activate, you'll pull Rendili out of your deck with Mobilization Points. Then you'll activate probably 3. If you get more force than that, great, but you're going to at least get 3 because of your throne room. So long as they didn't go first playing throne room mains and played Gunite against you or started Gunite against you, your first turn is pretty much going to be the same thing. You pull out, whichever one of your 1-0 docking bays, Executor, Death Star 2. Generally, I go for Death Star 2 first, but it doesn't really matter. They're the same thing. You'll play your docking. Well, sorry, I just deleted a bunch of cards out of here by accident. You'll deploy your docking bay. Let me just add those back in. I don't know what happened there. And they will play the Emperor to the docking bay. So now you're getting +2 force from your mobilization points, +1 force from the Emperor because he is a Dark Jedi. And then you will, am I missing a docking bay? There it is. And then you will basically pass the turn. So on your next turn, you're going to be activating like 8 to 10 force. You get out your other docking bay, and then really what you're trying to do is play Janus. He deploys -3 to the same site as the Emperor. When he's with the Emperor at a battleground, he adds 1 to your force strain there, and then you can use a force to place a card from from your hand on the bottom of your used pile to draw the top card of your reserve deck. And you're just recycling the card Force Lightning over and over and over and over and over again. The Emperor can pull Force Lightning out of your reserve deck every single turn. So on your turn and your opponent's turn. So on your turn, you pull Force Lightning, you use a Force, you put it on the bottom of your used pile to draw a card off your reserve deck with Janus. Then you recirculate. On your opponent's turn, you pull the Force Lightning out, you use a Force with Janus, and you sit there and just draw cards. And you're really just looking for things to go battle. You're looking for a Vader, you're looking for Jade, you're looking for Sim Aloo to sit with the Emperor and Janus, you're looking for IG-88, or you're disarmed, you are beaten, Weapon Levitation, Sniper, you're looking for your ships, you're looking for your anything to go to attack your opponent. Eventually, you try to set up on the downtown plaza to drain for 2 or 3 or even 4, depending on how many lightsabers or Janus you have there, as well as the Cloud City docking bay. These are mobile systems, mobile sites, so you can't be targeted by Lost in the Wilderness to put your characters missing by canceling the Force Drain. And then you get out, search and destroy, and you just sit there and do damage and ping them, or just go fight them. It's a pretty card-intensive deck, so you're going to have a lot of cards on the table, which means that you're going to probably find very quickly that your reserve force use pile, your life force, is pretty thin. You might have like 14 or 15 cards. It helps you with tracking, so you can basically one of the tricks that you're trying to do is you use, say like Masterful Move. So you use a Force, we'll start with operational as planned. So let's say you have no cards in your Force pile. You have 1 card in your Force pile, right? Use operational as planned. You put back like your spare copy of the Emperor because you have 2, or you put back like a Masterful Move or another 5, a Twi'lek Advisor or something into your Force pile. You'll then use a Force to go put the Force Lightning on the bottom of your deck and draw a card, and then you can use like a Force for like Masterful Move, and suddenly you have like 5, 5, 5, 5, 6 stacked in your deck, and then you go battle and you're drawing 5s and 6s for every single battle destiny. So you're choking people with Vader, or capturing them with IG-88, or hitting everything with lightsabers, shooting things with different guns and stuff, and you just battle and battle and battle and battle, and eventually you'll probably just kill all of their characters and win the game, is really what ends up happening. I think in about the 150 or so games I've played with this deck, I've maybe tried to cross Luke like once. It just never happens. So on the backside, you're going to lose a Force every single turn. But if you think about it, like most games are only going to go to about 8 turns or so. You're not going to get Luke on turn 1. You're probably not going to get Luke on turn 2. So most of the time you can probably assume that you could get Luke by like turn 3 with Vader. So turn 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is 6 turns? So 5, 6 turns. If there was a card that was printed that was just like a lost interrupt and says like, if Vader on table lose 5 Force, your opponent can never play Luke Skywalker for the rest of the game. Like that would just get played in basically every single deck, which is essentially what Bring Him Before Me says, right? Lose 5 Force over the rest of the game, and your opponent can just never have Luke. And Luke is just so instrumental to most light side decks that like they start to crumble when they can't have Luke, because he's the core of a lot of light side mains builds. And then you're just mopping up all their other little guys with, Vader, basically. This is a very good Vader battling deck. So if you like to battle and play with Darth Vader, I highly recommend Bring Him Before Me.
That's a really great summary, Andy. And I mean, this is a powerful deck, right? And it's got kind of everything. It's got Vader and sort of killing folks. So this is fun. thank you for sharing this. And once again, I will add the description or the card list to the video description. And please leave comments on what you'd like to see next. We've got lots of ideas, but we want to know if people have specific requests. Any kind of closing thoughts on this?
So one of the big cards in Premier to Death Star 2 is Honor of the Jedi, which prevents Darkseid from basically doing damage if they're not on 3 battleground sites. It limits, up to 2 damage. So like Visage of the Emperor or Court of the Vile Gangster or Force Drains at non-battleground sites all basically go away, which basically kills Hunt Down in Death Star 2. This deck is really not affected by that card. So if you can neutralize Luke and neutralize Honor of the Jedi, you basically have attacked the 2 biggest threats that Lightside has just by bringing this deck. I think this is probably the best deck in Death Star 2 for Darkseid. And there's a couple different ways that you can build it. You can build it with Imperial commands and go a little bit more space heavy. You can do things with an Emperor's Power and start battling and adding battle destinies elsewhere. You can also just play a heavy Sense Alter component to it as well, because you get the Emperor on turn 1 pretty much every game, and you can just sit there and sense and alter everything your opponent does. So there's a couple different ways to build it. I like this version because there's a lot of unique individual cards that kind of can get me out of different jams at different points in the game. And so I'm never really more than 1 card away than what I need. And I'm just cycling through with Janus to find everything and battling, which I think is kind of fun. This deck has a hard matchup against Mind What You Have Learned because there's no good way for you to do damage early on, and they're just going to sit there and train. And eventually you're just like under the gun where like they're going to be like, next turn I'm going to complete test 5 and I'm going to put a 6 or a 7 on it, and every single one of my best destiny draws for the rest of the game is going to be a 6. Or a R2 and R in red 5, which is a 0 or a 7. And at that point, you just kind of have to scoop because like they'll play a Luke or they'll play like Obi-Wan with Saber. And they'll be like, target Vader, hit him. I drew a 14. Battle Destiny is a 7. Lose, 5 force. I free Luke. Luke goes and walks over here, battles the Emperor, hit the Emperor. And you just can't beat every Destiny being a 7. And hidden base can be kind of tricky to play against. You have to really go in with a good plan on how to use your 4 ships that you have to probe and then consolidate and try and battle and fight and spread out and run. In that game, it's all going to come down to finding your downtown plaza to sit there and drain and setting up Search and Destroy and protecting Search and Destroy to do damage. But against most main decks, Throne Room mains, Prophet, Hidden mains, anything like that, you have very good game against all of them. So overall, a very good deck.
Yeah, I'm. This is exciting. I'm gonna go tinker around with this myself. So Andy, thank you once again for sharing another deck. I feel like we're just marching on through these. So we'll see everybody next time. Hope everyone enjoyed this, and see you guys later.
Thank you.